Welcome to the Scaling Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Harper, and today's guest is Scott Zide. Scott is the CEO of Empower Brands, which is a 10-brand, multi-brand service franchisor. So he buys brands, he incubates brands in the franchisor space. He has been in the franchising world for over 25 years, started as a franchisee, has had 4 exits throughout the process, now runs a system that does 1.5 billion in system-wide sales.
The journey for me starting as a franchisee, huge. It's a huge piece of this because while I have not been in those shoes for a long time, you can always reflect back on that. You can, in a way, still put that hat back on. I use the word empathy here a lot. I think it's one of the traits and characteristics of the best franchisors out there.
Today, we talk about scaling the business, what it's like to exit multiple companies, how you incubate a brand, and what are the success stories around incubating a brand. We talk about everything. So if you're a first-time franchisor, or if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or a franchisee, this episode is perfect for you to listen to understand what happens behind launching a brand. Scott Zide, welcome to the Scaling Podcast, my friend.
Hey, Aaron. Great to be here.
I'm excited to get in. I know we've been talking for a couple of years now since I launched Rolling Suds, but we haven't had kind of a long time to dig into your background. So I'm excited to kind of talk to you today.
Great to be here.
Yeah. So I love your story because you were a franchisee first. And I think that's a really important element of your story that might be different than a lot of franchisor CEOs, certainly different than me. We just hired a CEO that was a franchisee first of ServPro and built a large ServPro before going to work at kind of corporate. So why don't we just start with your background, how you kind of got up to where you're at now leading Empower, and then I'll kind of dive in and ask some more questions as you go through it.
Sure. Yeah. So as you said, I started my career as a franchisee, which it was a really important, I think, start now as I look back. So I was 23 years old, got done with school and had this crazy, I think, dream to own my own business, learned that franchising might be the right route to take. So a friend of mine who became a partner of mine, we opened 2 sub shops in St. Louis, Missouri, where we were both born and raised. So learned a lot about owning your own business, building a team, marketing the business, the finance and account, every aspect of owning your own business at a very young age. But when I look back now, I think the one thing that I reflect on a lot and what helped me along this path was the relationship between the franchisor and the franchisees was fantastic. So my first experience was a positive, successful one, which ultimately led my wife and I, we were the 4th franchisees of Outdoor Lighting Perspectives, one of the brands we have here today at Empower. So we were actually multi-branded franchisees, having both brands. Eventually, my partner and I, we built those restaurants up and we sold those after about 6 years. And it was really lucky, I guess, for me that the founder of the lighting franchise approached me about joining the franchisor to help him grow and scale the business. So that was really my sort of switch. That was in 2001, so 24 years ago now. Wow. where I made the switch from franchisee to franchisor. So I was leading a brand at a very young age, putting a support team in place, putting the foot on the gas of FranDev, and really building the brand and learning how to build a brand that was very, very young. So that experience ultimately led me to be a founder for the first time. So I partnered with 2 partners to start the Mosquito Squad. brand in the outdoor pest control space. So that was in 2005. It was my first time starting a brand from scratch, from the ground up. We didn't know it at the time, but we were starting a category from scratch as well because we were the first.
Yeah. That's wild. I didn't know Mosquito Squad was first. So that was what year?
2005, so 20 years ago now.
Wow.
So that category, of course, has evolved and grown, and there's probably 13, 14 brands now in that space.
And did you sell your outdoor lighting perspectives franchisee locations when you stepped into franchisor?
Yeah, we had, the overlap was about a year. So we eventually sold that location and actually relocated from St. Louis, Missouri down to Charlotte, where it was based at the time. So yeah, we had become a multi-branded franchisor. That was really our goal, having outdoor lighting perspectives and Mosquito Squad. So that was really, for me at least, the start of this journey that I've been on to lead and operate and scale and grow multiple brands under one platform. So we did that a long time ago. Eventually met Chris Grand Prix, who became my partner at Outdoor Living Brands. So Chris was my counterpart at Architect, one of the brands we have here today,
which is
well.
a deck construction franchise.
Used to be just decking. The business has transformed a lot over the last 10 plus years to really design and build anything in the backyard besides a pool.
Okay, cool.
Now, Chris and I, we partnered up. We created Outdoor Living Brands, which was the parent company to have multiple outdoor related, in this case, home service brands. So we spent this was in the 08, 09 timeframe, spent the next 12 years building that platform. We founded the Conservative Irrigation brand from scratch. So that was the second brand that we launched from the ground up. And we did divest the Mosquito Squad brand, so it's not part of the portfolio.
You sold that to Authority, right?
We did.
Authority brands?
So
yeah.
2018, it was the right, we had an outside shareholder who wanted to get a return on their investment, and it was the right thing to do at the time, and really has been a win-win-win for all involved.
That's awesome. And Mosquito Squad was at that point, how many units, how much system-wide sales, whatever you're really willing to share?
Yeah, we had just crossed 100 franchisees at that time. System sales were maybe 65 million. So we had reached some size and scale.
Sure.
Proof of concept was there. Franchisees were entering years 7, 8, 9, 10. So
which is great.
We proved a lot out, and Authority acquired it from us, and they've done a great job with the brand. So COVID came, and nobody knew what was going to take place. And it was really, as anybody who's part of the home services space knew, that demand, lead flow, sales, everything went up and to the right. And it actually, in a strange way, allowed us to take a step back and say, how can we put the foot on the gas? How can we accelerate our growth? How can we achieve our 5-year goals in 3 years? But there was a missing piece for us, and that was the capital side, and having a partner who could help us really fuel that growth and allow us to go out and acquire brands and partner with brands and scale a platform faster than we could do on our own. So we went to market. It was the middle of 21. And it was really luck or chance. We happened to begin to talk to another multi-branded franchisor by the name of Lynx Franchising. And Lynx was similar to Outdoor Living Brands. The big difference there is they were all B2B. So we were
they were pretty
B2C.
commercial. And for the audience that doesn't know Lynx, what were the brands they had?
The two brands were JanPro, the largest janitorial commercial cleaning brand out there, and then First Team, which is a restoration brand.
That's right.
Those were the two brands. And when we began to think about joining forces, it really was an interesting strategic decision for both of us. Because in the franchise space, a lot of the multi-branded franchisors were all resi or all commercial, and we had a approach to diversify and I would say be more wide, where we were going to build a diversified, scaled commercial and residential platform, and that's what we've done. We joined forces in September of 21. I stepped into the CEO seat. It was April of the next year. So it's been about 3.5 years for me, and we've done a lot since then. We've gone from 5 brands to 10. System sales are about 3x, about 1.5 billion now. 700 franchisees serving.
Wow.
Serving, I think, about 1,500 territories across the U.S. So just rapid growth, but doing it in a very disciplined way, which is, I think, incredibly important here.
Very important, yeah.
So it's been a wonderful ride. We're at a great place now where we have certain size and scale that allows us to invest more in certain things. The resources are there. So incredibly proud of the brands that we have, the team that we have here, and very much looking forward to the next 5 years.
So talk to me about the kind of acquisition strategy. So Lynx essentially buys you, but then it's a strategic acquisition where they more or less put you in charge of this platform. Did they say, okay, now you have this much money and we want to be at this many brands by this date, or was it more open? Like, what was your acquisition strategy from there?
Yeah, I would say it wasn't as prescriptive as that, but we knew we had a supportive partner. MidOcean Partners is the investor in the business, so they were incredibly supportive to continue to acquire brands. So then it was really about the brands more than anything else. The categories they were in, had they reached a certain size and scale, was proof of concept there. For us, it all starts with unit level economics. So could we get through that gate? So the criteria is probably the most important thing. Yep. And then it was, we typically, Aaron, were looking for brands that were anywhere from 2 to 5 million of EBITDA. They had 50 to 100 franchisees.
Yep.
System sales might be 50 million plus. So there was a little bit of a sweet spot that we were trying to look for. And we were also looking for brands that had both a B2C and B2B play. So that was really important to us because of the strategic approach that we had.
Yeah. And what were the brands that you acquired, those extra 5 brands?
Yeah, so we the first one was Superior Fence and Rail, probably the fastest growing brand that we've had. Wonderful
incredible
growth.
Unit level economics of that brand. Really well known.
Yep. The business has scaled well. I believe when we acquired it, 35 franchisees. System sales were in the 60 million plus range. As we sit here today, 110 franchisees. System sales just passed through the 300 mark. So 5x. A lot of growth in a very short period of time. But all the credit to Zach Payton, who founded the business. He's done a fantastic job and continues to lead that brand today. So that was the first one. Koala Insulation was the second brand, founded by Scott Marr. That brand had reached scale I believe when we acquired it, 90 franchisees, 90 million plus of system sales. So that brand really fit the category we like a lot. Had the B2C and B2B play as well. Scott had just launched Wallaby
Yep.
Windows, which is a newer brand that he had launched that just got off the ground. And then the two most recent brands that we have really launched from the ground up are Bumble Roofing. We partnered with David Baton, who was the founder of the company-owned location. So we've been franchising that business for about a year and a half or so. Now there's 18 franchisees, and the philosophy we take when we're starting a brand from scratch is let's get the right first 15 to 20 for franchisees and then focus all of our attention time on them. Fran Dev for us, we actually slow it down some and make sure that that first cohort, however big that is, that we ensure that the ramp is there, the ULEs are there, that the success is there with that first group. So that's what we've done with Wallaby, Bumble Roofing, and then the last brand, the 10th brand, would be Canopy Lawn Care in the lawn care space. So we again partnered with a founder, have launched that business. I believe there's 13 franchisees right now, and that's early stage, just beginning to see the first cohort of franchisees ramp.
That's incredible. So I want to talk a little bit about incubation of brands.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an incredibly difficult thing to do.
Yeah, very much so.
So you've now done it, what, like five, 6 times?
Right.
So the first time you did it, how did you do it? Was it like, I see this location and I'm going to acquire the location and then turn it into a franchise? Has it been similar? What are some of the things you've learned as you've added, done it again and again and again? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the first time was the Mosquito Squad brand, and that was a little bit different than the rest in that we started a company-owned location in Charlotte ourselves. So we tested it for the first probably 18 months it took to figure it out. And then we launched for franchise. So that was really, truly startup from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
The category, there wasn't a business even doing this. So we had to figure everything out. So I would say that was truly creating something from scratch. Whereas the last 4 brands that we've done the same thing, that was where we partnered with a founder. So that's really the first step, is to find the right founder who wants to stay with the business, partner with us. They've scaled the business to a certain size. They've been doing it for a certain amount of time. The unit level economics have reached a certain place, and they're really coming to Empower to really help them on the franchise side, because they have this goal or aspiration to expand. They don't know how, and they can do it through either company-owned operations or turn to franchising. So in each of these cases, they've turned to franchising. Empower is the partner that they picked. And it's a really, call it systematized approach to how do you partner with the founder, allow them to keep doing what they're doing. They lead the brands. It's their brand still, but we bring all of the back office infrastructure support resources to it to allow them to get the franchise off the ground and scale it faster than if they were doing it on their own. And I would say, what have I learned? I've learned a ton. You learn a lot doing this. I would say one is take your time. That's why this approach now of getting these first 15, 20 franchisees, the right franchisees in place, and really shifting all of your attention to them. Because we know if unit level net economics aren't there, ramp isn't there, validation will not be there then. And it makes it incredibly hard on the Fran Dev side then to actually build some momentum. So one of the things we've learned is to ensure that first group gets off the ground well, and the support is there for them. So we always overinvest in the support side. So we're putting the support in place before the growth. So another, I guess, thing I've learned is that you're going to be upside down for years in this.
That's what I was just going to ask you about.
It takes, I have found at least, and we have found that it takes 3 to 5 years to truly get the business to a place where it's, call it royalty sufficient.
Yep.
Where you aren't relying on franchise fees to help fund everything. That's what you have to do in years 1, 2, and 3. That's just how it works. But I would say the ultimate goal is to get to a place where the system sales, the ramping of the for franchisees, the royalties get to a point where it can pay for the support that you've put in place. The patience needs to be there to do it right, wait it out, and scale in the correct way. And then maybe the last thing we've learned is that you're going to have to continue to evolve and innovate, even in years 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we partner with these founders. They've scaled a business. They've had a ton of success, but just because it worked a certain way for them doesn't mean that's going to be the perfect roadmap for a franchise brand. So we've learned by doing this a lot that you have to, in years 1, 2, and 3, continue to evolve and innovate the business to ensure that the systems, the processes, the know-how can transfer to a franchisee no matter where they are.
Yeah, we've found with Rolling Sides that the franchisees are pushing harder than obviously the founding location did at the beginning. They just simply have more resources and more systems in place. And so the business has had to adapt to the needs of franchisees across now 35 states. And so one of the things is like, well, we're doing a lot of parking garages. We're like 70% commercial. So we're doing a lot of parking garages. What that means is that we need a truck that can get underneath. Yeah. And the original truck that the founding unit has kind of established and gotten into, that franchisees buy for their first territory, we basically were like, all right, well, how do we get the same level of efficacy on a truck without diminishing quality, while more or less cutting the top of the box truck off, essentially? And then how do we make that economical for the franchisee? And so we just rolled out kind of, it's funny, Brian Wendling Sr. started the business in 1990. Yeah. Brian Wendling Jr. took the business over in like 2017, got it ready for franchising. So we now have the senior truck and the junior truck.
Okay.
And if you know anything about me, like I love branding, so it's like that's perfect. So now the franchisees on territory 1, because they have to add a truck for every territory. Yep. Territory 1, they do the senior truck. Territory 2, they can open with the junior. Territory 3, they open with the senior. Territory 4, they open with the junior, so they can kind of oscillate. But we needed to do that based upon the demands of our system. And that was not necessary for the original business, but you have to be nimble as a franchisor in order to understand the needs and be able to adapt to them.
Yeah, and I would also say that the founding franchisees, that first group, they are so involved and so engaged with what we're trying to do. Obviously, the best ideas come from the field, and we recognize that. So I would say the the relationship and the partnership with this founding franchise base is incredibly strong, and we work on that. And then the trust and the transparency and everything is there, and that's what's going to ultimately fuel getting this right and having a brand that can really scale over time.
So the Mosquito Squad opportunity that you launched, that if I know anything about franchising, that you had to grow fast because you didn't have mid-ocean behind you in order to be able to go slower, right? So
Right.
like you have to add a bunch of franchisees in order to get a bunch of franchise fees in order to then hire the team and get to scale, which is different, right, than what you're doing with some of these other brands where you have 18 within a year and a half. So how do you, like, I guess, explain kind of some of the differences there versus kind of what we're doing with Rolling Suds versus what you're able to do now with, some of these other incubated brands. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I tell people all the time, there is a lot of luck involved in this, being at the right place at the right time. And I would say Mosquito Squad is a really good example of that. So because homeowners had never heard of this, they've never paid for it, there was a lot of trial and error, and the demand grew and grew and grew very fast. So I think because we had that dynamic going on, we were able to scale very fast. So every new franchisee that we brought on board, they would give away the first 100 sprays or 200 sprays, and it just caught fire. I think that's what you get when you start a service or category that nobody knows about. Everybody wants to try it and see what it's like, and it worked. And because it worked, it scaled very, very, very fast. So we were able to, I would say, accelerate the expansion of that brand very, very fast, in part because it was a new category. Whereas what we're doing now with some of the lawn care, roofing, windows and doors, those categories are very mature. The competitive set is there. There's some larger national players, there's regional players. So taking your time and figuring out how you win, how you differentiate yourself, how you win becomes more important than anything else. And that's where the patience that we have now, I think we have now, serves us well, and has allowed us to take our time and make sure in these more mature categories, how do we win? And again, what's the value prop? What can we bring to a commercial customer or a residential customer that's different or unique or automated, whatever it might be? That's really where we're focused now with these brands.
Rolling Suds right now is essentially in the same situation as Mosquito Squad was back in 2005 in terms of creating a category and catching fire quite quickly, with particularly in the commercial side, because commercial customers need their buildings cleaned no matter what's going on in the economy. And with the homeowners, everyone knows about power washing because people watch TikTok and see the videos where people are cleaning, things, and it's very satisfying, but there's really no category leader. And I think, at least based on what you're explaining to me with Mosquito Squad, I think that's a big part of the reason we've been able to catch fire and go to scale quickly, as well as these franchisees are just like, they'll be 60 days into business and get a national account that changes their world and justifies the entire investment. So it's really, it's a cool place to be. And there is a lot of luck to it, because I had a thesis that this would work, but every business launches with a thesis, and some of those theses are not correct.
Right.
I would say probably most of them aren't, and then you have to adapt and change. That's awesome. So what was it like to sell a business? Like your first business, you sold the sandwich shops.
Yep.
And then you've sold, it sounds like, 3 other businesses since then. Right?
Yeah.
Mosquito Squad. outdoor lighting brands. So those are two more. Yeah. So what was it like to sell
Yes,
those?
we've done it both when we were franchisees, so that's twice.
Oh yeah, those twice. Yep.
So Mosquito Squad and then Outdoor Living Brand. So four times we've gone through a process, and you learn a lot going through that as well. It's emotional, up and
Mm-hmm.
down.
I hear it's like 70% emotional,
Yeah,
30%
so
logical.
no matter size and scale, doesn't matter. It's your baby. It's what you've built, and you're letting go in a way. So I think everybody has to reconcile that, and figure out how to go through that. I would just say that the one the one thing I've learned that is so very important is to actually have an advisor help you. And in our case, and maybe someday in your case, it'll be hiring a bank, having that bank guide you through this process, prep the business for sale, make sure you have all your ducks in a row, because a smooth process on the front end is what leads to a really good outcome. It's when the process is not smooth and you aren't prepared, when things may not go the way that you want. And then, fortunately for us, in most of these cases, we've been able to pick the buyer, which I think is really important, especially being a franchisor, making sure that if you're going to divest a brand or sell a brand or partner with someone else, that it truly is the right partner for the franchisees first. It starts there. And then for the team, the support team, are they the right partner that's going to invest in the business, or are they going to perpetuate what you have done as the founder? So it's a process, and it can take time. It has its ups and downs, but I think having someone to help you go through that process critically important, because they will set expectations, realistic ones, or at least they should, and then you're going into the process in the right mindset, and with an expectation of timing or valuation that is real, that is market based. So I enjoy it. I've done it a few times now, and being able to tell the story of where we've been, where we've come, and then most importantly, it's all about where are you trying to go and what are the growth opportunities that are there to take a business like ours that is scaled now, but how do you make that 2x the size in 4, 5, 6 years, which is a lot of growth.
So Outdoor Living Brands was it was three
Three
brands when
brands.
it
Yep.
sold to Lynx,
Yep.
because you had sold the fourth to Authority Brands. So right
Yep.
at the time, so you had three brands: Architect, Outdoor Lighting Perspectives,
And Conserva.
and Conserva. Conserva was incubated, right?
Yep.
Conserva was incubated. So Conserva was incubated before you had private equity backing.
Yep. That's correct.
So did you raise capital to get Outdoor Living Brands off the ground, or
We had one outside shareholder who came in and provided
that invested?
Yep. Yeah. And helped us, give us the base at least to be able to continue to grow Outdoor Lighting Perspectives and Architect. And then we actually tested the Conserva irrigation business for 4 years.
In Charlotte?
We had 7 pilot locations.
Oh, wow. And that was a part of the capital that you raised from that outside investor.
So I would say Conserva was probably the brand and business that we took the most methodical, patient approach. Looking back now, probably too patient, but 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 it's I
Four
mean
years with 7 locations
it,
that's certainly patient.
it has served us well. Of
That's
course,
good.
that brand has grown,
Yeah.
and it's been a great story. But we, I mean, it's core to who we are here at Empower. The DNA of really focusing on unit level economics and being passionate about that, and everything we do revolves around that. And I
Yeah.
think that's what can sometimes cause you to be too patient, and I think it did in that case.
So when you sold Outdoor Living Brands, what was your system-wide sales at that point when Lynx bought it?
That's a great quick question. So the three brands combined were probably 250.
250. So you took it from 250 in 2022.
Oh, I'm sorry. Combined when they were
Combined.
combined. Yeah, when Lynx and Outdoor Living Brands came together, system
So Lynx
sales.
was doing how much? Lynx had the two brands. Largely, Jan Pro was, I think, the majority of their system-wide sales, right?
Jan Pro is the largest brand that we have.
Yeah.
700 million plus. It's a
Insane.
massive
Yeah.
brand, a great business. So combined, you were in the 800, 8.5 range
Yeah.
when it came together, and we're at 1.5 now.
Billion.
Yeah.
Which makes you top 5, top 3 in the franchise industry, because you've got Neighborly and Authority brands.
Yeah, on the services side, it'd be 3 or 4.
Yeah, because there's Neighborly, Authority brands, what, 1.2 billion in system-wide sales or something like that?
No, they're bigger than us.
They're bigger, so they're 2 billion. Okay,
probably now, I would think.
and then Neighborly's obviously the biggest.
Right. Yep. So we're probably 3 or 4 if you're thinking about system sales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So how do you balance? I'm curious, because you're going back to what you said earlier. Like you guys are largely 50-ish% commercial, 50-ish% residential. Mm-hmm. So how do you balance that overlap when you're selecting franchisees, right? Because like in my experience, I guess I'll give some context. Like we find franchisees that have a higher risk tolerance. I think at least what we experience is with commercial jobs, even though they're bigger dollar items and you would think that would like make it less risky, it actually makes it more risky because someone has to front the capital in the beginning. They have to have more working capital to close those deals. Then they have to do the work, and they might only collect a little bit. They're not going to collect all their costs. Then they have to wait for it to get paid. Yeah. So how do you balance that when selecting franchise owners, and is it different per brand?
Yeah, it's a great question. So part of the thesis of bringing this together was to not have residential brands or commercial brands, but to have service brands. So this designation that's out there, we want to break that down. So what we've been doing over the last 3+ years now are what have been historically referred to as the Resi brands. They are beginning to and have been expanding into the B2B space, into the commercial space. So we're now seeing what used to be 0%. We're now seeing 10, 15% plus of the work
of commercial
being commercial. So we're migrating to commercial. So when we think about the franchisee base and the profile, we typically view it as they start out on the residential side, which is the opposite of what I know you guys are doing. So think about it on the flip side. They're starting out on the residential side, and then they get a year or two into the business. They then migrate into the commercial side, because commercial jobs can be more complex. The capital that you need for the commercial jobs can be more, and then the terms, as you just said, Aaron, sometimes you have to wait a little bit more to get paid. So, but we are I am a huge proponent of the B2B space. I think
Mm-hmm.
as long as for us the way that we view it, as long as the products used are the same, the franchisees are using the same types of products, the labor force is the same, the sales process is the same. The go-to-market strategy, that's the difference
Mm-hmm.
between the two. So we have not had to retrain the franchisees to say, okay, you have a residential business, you have a commercial business, they're
Right.
different, and you have to think of them as two different businesses. So we've been very disciplined about making sure that when we go into the what we refer to as light commercial space, that everything the franchisee does on the resi side can be applied on the commercial side. So there's really no difference except the jobs are 2x or 3x or 4x the size.
Yeah. So that's how you de-risk it a little bit, is you
Yep.
have them come in. Got it. That makes sense. We found, I mean, with us, that the demand is so heavily in the commercial
Yep.
side that they have to come in and be prepared. And so our capital requirements for franchise owners have considerably just gotten higher and
Yep.
higher because the jobs that franchisees are doing early on are just larger and larger.
Right.
And so the kind of risk profile and risk tolerance and capital from a liquid and also a net worth
Yep.
standpoint for our franchisees has just continued to increase, such that now we're a lot of multi-unit, multi-brand. Like we have a franchisee that has 15 territories and 6 trucks across 3 states that has, he's the largest Pay More franchisees and tropical
Okay.
smoothies. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So like you bring in these types of people and they're like used to this level of risk. So I'll probably send our VP of Fran Dev to MUFC next year, multi-unit franchise conference, just because we're seeing that level of risk tolerance is kind of necessary to kind of meet the demand in some of these. So I was interested to see, but that's different with JanPro then, because there's no residential there.
Yeah.
So
So
your
that's
franchisees you're selecting, are they all master still,
yeah.
or
It's still
they're master?
what we refer to as 3 tiers.
Okay.
Yep.
So what are the 3 tiers for
So you have
JanPro?
us as the
Okay.
franchisor. You have the master, or what we refer to as regional
Okay.
developer, and then the franchisees, who are the folks running the business day to day, doing the work, getting the work
Yep.
done. So it's still 3 tier. It's a great business. The profile of that regional developer is slightly different than, let's say, a conservative irrigation for franchisee. It's probably more akin to what your franchisee profile is, Aaron, in that more capitalized. They're building a real
They're
infrastructure.
building a franchisor.
Yeah, I mean, they're
because they do the trainings.
correct. They have to have the support in place. They may have a team of
Yeah.
10, 12, 15 folks on that team. So it's a different type of franchise, different brand. It's a little bit different, but we've taken a lot of the know-how and a lot of the best practices from JanPro because of how they go to market, and applied that on the resi side
Yeah, I
to
bet.
help the residential brands then begin to expand into the commercial space. So the synergies have been real. We've leveraged
Yeah.
it as much as we can. We continue to work on that every day. I get asked all the time, how does this all fit? How does this all work together? And my view has always been 1 + 1 = 3 or 4. It
Yeah,
doesn't
right.
equal 2. So what can you do to leverage the know-how, the best practices, the successes that we have across these brands, so they can help each other, even at the franchisee level? as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit, because the franchisee level, for a lot of people listening, they may either want to become a franchisee or they may want to just buy a business. The franchisee level, how do you get franchisees to follow the model and then improve their unit level economics? Franchising is decentralized. So
Yep.
so it's not like you hire a manager and then they have to do everything that you tell them, otherwise they lose their job.
Yep.
So how do you balance and help them become successful and follow the model, despite probably having, strong personalities within the franchisee network across brands?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do believe it starts on the front end through the franchise development discovery process of trying to identify prospective franchisees who I would say are not true entrepreneurs at their core. And maybe both of us, we would be defined as that. Is this
I would be a
true?
terrible franchisee.
Yeah, and what do we do? We always we tinker, we change things, we evolve things. We don't follow things maybe to the T because we want to be disruptors out there. So I do think it does start with trying to find franchisees who want to be entrepreneurs. They want to take control of their life and their career and where they're trying to go, but they'll do it in a framework, and there are guardrails. So it's trying to find that like in between phase here. So it starts there. I would say we're very intentional on the front end. So when I say the front end, onboarding, training, that first year of support, of continuing to sort of reinforce and make the business case, because that's what you have to do, the business case of why doing it the way you've been taught and the way it's been done in the past, why that makes sense. And if you decide to veer from that, why you'll spin your wheels, why the capital investment will be more, and why you should have never been in a franchise in the first place.
In the first place.
Yeah. So it's a pretty, I think, important mindset to have in the first year of a new for a franchisee, because if unit level economics are the most important thing, and it is, anything we can do to shorten the learning curve, anything we can do to help them ramp top line the way they should, to put the right team in place to get this thing going and start to scale, that's what we want to do. And franchisees who try and recreate the wheel, I want to do it this way, or I'm going to go try this, typically what I've seen over this long haul now is that they get a little bit off track, and it can go a little bit sideways, and it takes them longer then to get back on track and then scale to where they need to. So we're constantly making the business case of why doing it this way or that way and the way it's been done in the past. And we've had a lot of success doing that. I was a franchisee twice. I prescribed to, maybe because I was young, to whatever they told me to do, I would go do. And it worked out well in both cases. So I do think the relationships have a lot to do with this, and the franchisor's ability to build these trusting, strong, tight bonds with their franchisees, so that as you're supporting and helping and mentoring and working with franchisees, if that relationship is as strong as it should be, there's a collaborative, collective approach to, we're doing this together, we're doing this step by step. And then this idea of going outside the guardrails it just doesn't happen that much. But when it does, and it will at times, when it does, it never works.
It never
It
works.
never works.
Ever. Yeah, it never works. I joke, but I mean, this is real. It's like if you buy a franchise and you don't follow the systems, it's like buying IKEA furniture and then not following the instructions
Right.
and then getting mad when the IKEA furniture doesn't get put together. And it's like there's instructions. And like we're not perfect, right?
Right.
Like no franchisor is going to have every system dialed to the point where like but like you got to iterate before you imitate. Like just learn the process and what works, go out there and be successful and then start to kind of tinker and then bring us your
Right.
ideas.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we'll just teach the rest of the franchisees. But like, don't be 3 weeks in and say, hey, like, what if we just did this cleaning process differently? It's like, dude, don't even buy the franchise at that point.
Yeah, we've been on Empower Day. We call it Empower Day, Discover Day or Confirmation Day. I kick the day off, and one of the things that I share is that I'm very direct about this. In the first year or two, just follow the way it's been taught. When you get into year 3, 4, and 5, you're going to figure out better ways to do things. You're going to figure out the next mousetrap. You will figure out better ways to do things. Then you bring those things to us. We share them. We package them. We systematize them. We share that with your peers, and that's how this works. So a brand that's 25 years down the road, it continues to learn from learn from the past and the present. So I 100% agree. The life cycle of a franchisee, it's really important in that early, whatever years you want to put on it, childhood years.
Yeah.
Is
First
to,
2 years is
yeah,
when
just
most
to
people
make
don't
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. So in the early stages of a brand, you're going to have franchisees that are generally more entrepreneurial than franchisees a year and a half later of a brand, right?
Yeah.
Like I always say, franchisee number 5 is a very different profile than franchisee number 105.
Yeah.
So how do you balance like empowering those first kind of franchisees to iterate, but also imitate, and then kind of bringing them into the process? Is it through franchise advisory councils? Is it like culture? Is it bringing them to corporate? Like, what are some of the strategies that you employ to give them the encouragement to be this kind of more entrepreneurial franchisee, but also rein them in and say, yeah, you still got to follow the system?
Yeah, so I think the first step is to let them know they are considering a franchise brand and system that's young, that in our case has just started over the last year or two, and make sure they know this is ground up, ground floor, and that you will be one of the early founding franchisees. So that naturally tends to skew toward somebody who's willing to take more risk. And that's why those first 10, 20 are more risk takers. So we start at advisory councils from day one. There may only be 2 that are part of that, and it grows from there. But there is always a sounding board and a place and a vehicle where franchisees and the franchisor, in this case, continue to work very closely. I would say for these newer brands, there is a more latitude, more autonomy, more room to test and try things, exponentially more. And we participate in that. We will partner with franchisees, whether it's on the marketing and lead gen side, whether it's on the tech side. If there's a new platform, or we will invest in that. We will work with franchisees to partner with them. So I think that first year or two, let's say, there is a lot of collaborative, still testing, trying things, proving things out, because that's reality.
Yeah.
When a brand is new, while the founding location may have been around for 10 years or 12 years, however long it's been, there's still the dynamic of you're putting different people in different regions and in different markets. And that's going to cause you to have to change, tweak. There are nuances there. So there is a natural phase. And my philosophy or approach, Aaron, has always been make sure somebody understands that up front before they invest in the business, before they launch the business. So we talk at Empower, we talk a lot about the life cycles. Where are the brands in their life cycles? And we have an incredibly diverse group of brands that are at very different points in their life cycle. So we're able to talk about that and talk about the differences. And there's pros and cons of all of them. So we're very transparent and upfront. Culturally, I would say there is a very entrepreneurial, creative aspect to these younger brands, of trying to not be rigid, trying not to be everything has to live in this perfect box, because the box isn't perfected, I guess, at that point. So it's constantly trying to hone in on and work on and tweak and evolve every day, every week, every month with these newer brands. So you said it, I think, a few times so far. It is not easy to do. It's a journey. There are ups and downs to doing this from scratch, and you learn every single time you try and launch a brand. You learn so much, and you have to be a student of that.
Yeah.
And you have to learn from that. And that's what I've tried to be, as we've done this a few times now, is think about what went well, what did not go well, and how can we take those learnings and apply it here. And what should happen is that it gets a little bit easier each
the next time you do it.
And the learning curve starts to get squeezed. The ramp gets better. So I was asked a couple weeks ago, would you rather acquire or incubate? It's a great question.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask because,
It's a wonderful question. If I had to pick one, I would probably say acquire. And
especially at where you guys are at in terms of you're buying EBITDA at this point, I would imagine, to increase. Because especially if you're going to incubate, you need the EBITDA from the other business that you're buying to then fund incubation, which I don't think people understand how much capital it takes to actually franchise a business from scratch.
Millions of dollars. People don't realize that. We've done it enough now. It's not hundreds of thousands. It's not.
It's millions.
I would say, because of size and scale, because of the investor base that we have now, I would say
at the franchisor level, you mean with Mid-Ocean?
Yeah.
When you just to clarify,
the private equity philosophy approach, there's duration of time, and that tends to lend itself more to acquiring brands that are of a certain size and scale, and then there's enough organic growth left with those brands that you do acquire that you can get a return on that investment. So it's neither one is right or wrong. I think it just depends on where the founder or the leadership team, where they are in their life cycle. And it's acquiring has its challenges too.
Yeah. What are some of the common challenges that you see in incubation that maybe you feel like are unavoidable? despite, like, if you incubate a brand, like
Right.
what are the problems that are going to happen no matter what?
Yeah, I think it's the need to constantly tweak and change in the first few years. That
Yep.
you cannot avoid that. It's
And
the
that costs money.
it costs money. It can cause frustration,
Mm-hmm.
and it should. So I think that's a challenge that anybody who's starting to franchise from scratch, from the ground up, you're going to run into that problem. I would say maybe it didn't happen in our case because of our size and scale, but undercapitalization would be the next challenge.
Yep.
Is you can have a great spreadsheet and it can say it's going to go like this, like this, like this, like this.
Mm-hmm.
I can assure you it won't. It will not go the way you think it will.
It'll cost way more money.
It might go
take
faster.
Way more time.
It might go slower. It might cost a lot more. So I would say that the capital side is really important here in planning. If you believe this is going to be a $1.5 million investment, you better be prepared to be 2.5 then.
Mm-hmm.
So it's. Yeah. I think those would be the two challenges, or
those are going to happen no matter what.
Those are the watch outs. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with us, like the first cohort of franchisees that we launched in 23, we only launched a handful of them because, to your point, it's better to get those that first cohort right than it is to add. Like, we would only allow 2 to 3 people in a training, and we only did 3 trainings in 23 when we launched, because if we miss something, it's a lot easier to retrain 2 people on that thing than it is to retrain 8. And what we found by the end of their first year, middle to end of the first year in business, is like they skewed in some cases 70, 80, 95% commercial.
Right.
And while those dollar amounts are higher, there's generally higher margin. Like, there is a carrying cost and a cost of capital that occurs that without the balance of residential, then you put some unnecessary stress on the business.
Yeah.
And so middle of 24, we shifted to the messaging heavily of like, hey, yes, this is a commercial power washing business, but we are not only a commercial power washing business. Like, we are becoming the biggest power washing franchise in the world, not just the biggest commercial power washing franchise in the world. Because, and what we tried to communicate to our franchisees, and this was one of those challenges you're talking about, is like, hey, if you have 4 customers, and the 4 customers, let's just use round numbers. You have $1 million business. Each customer is $250,000. Well, if you lose one of those customers, your business has 0 value, right? So if our job is to help you build a business that has enterprise value that you could pass down to your kids, or you can sell one day, or whatever it is, which that is our job. That's what you're paying us a royalty to do. Then having diversity in cash flow and not key customer risk will actually make your business more valuable, and you get paid immediately. So we've shifted much more now with the second and third cohorts that have launched to, hey, like, residential is going to pay for a lot of your carrying costs. It's less about margin and more about just making your business more valuable. And then commercial, when these big jobs come in, great, now you can buy additional trucks, or you can buy additional territories. And as the franchisor, we've now been able to say, okay, we have enough cash on the balance sheet and enough of an infrastructure in place to now invest in national accounts. And we have 4 full-time team members in the national accounts department. And so you go out and you do your part, which is making sure that this residential piece of your business is covered so that you have the stability to grow your business. We'll do our part and invest heavily into national accounts. And that's been great. But this is exactly what you're talking about, of like, we had a plan.
Right.
The plan was, and now the plan, year and a half later, is a different plan. and we got to be able to have the cash and be nimble enough and all these kind of things in order to adapt to the new plan.
Yeah, and you have a really strong base now, and you have franchisees that have been doing this for a year or so now, and that's a really important spot then because you've learned a ton from these first X amount of franchisees, and I'm a firm believer as long as you're continuing to evolve, innovate the business solely focused on the unit level economics of the franchisees, even if there's change and tough change, if the North Star is there, it's the right thing to do then.
Yeah. And we say a lot internally and publicly that we are a franchisee company. Ultimately, I think as a result of many of these franchisors going to market with not enough capital, franchisor in some circles has become this 4-letter word. And so I set out at the beginning to say, hey, we're going to be a franchisee company, which is the first franchisee company that I've ever heard of. And I know you guys take a similar approach where you're at by prioritizing the franchisees.
Yeah, it's DNA. I mean, more than anything else, I think it's built over a long period of time. That's where the journey for me, starting as a franchisee, huge. It's a huge piece of this because while I have not been in those shoes for a long time, you can always reflect back on that. You can, in a way, still put that hat back on. I use the word empathy here a lot. I think it's one of the traits and characteristics of franchise. The best franchisors out there have a tremendous amount of empathy. Because this is not easy stuff. For franchisees are putting their, in many cases, life savings on the line. Their income and livelihood is contingent upon this. So it's having that core to who you are, core to the mission, core to the values that are on the wall behind me. All those things, and it's not just words. It's not just what you say. If you truly do live that, you don't have to say it then. You don't have to. We don't talk about it all the time. It's just how we operate. And if that is what you lead with as a franchisor, I think the likelihood of success, real success, goes up exponentially. And we're operators at heart. We're former franchisees. I don't have probably the typical CEO background. So it's just while we've scaled and we're large and we're at this crazy size now, we've stayed really true to who we are and kept it at the core. And I think in the society and in the world that we live in today, that's a really important thing to do.
Yeah. When you incubate a brand and you bring on a founder that doesn't have experience in franchising, maybe it's like David who knows roofing or whatever, how do you create a deal structure that incentivizes them to kind of go from solo operator of roofing business to now I'm a franchisor, I'm a brand president?
Yep.
Like what do you acquire it outright? Do you have them roll? Like what are some of the things you do in order to incentivize them to take this big risk of becoming a franchisor?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One is their opportunity to roll. That would be one. So in most of these cases, the founder who we might acquire, they're able to take their proceeds, some part of that, and roll it into Empower. So they are now a shareholder and an investor in Empower. So they know they're part of something more. They know there will be a return on that role at some point in time. For them, it's a second bite at the apple. It's just it really aligns us, and we do it because of that. The alignment should be there, and it has to be there. And then I would say the sort of second part of that is they truly are the leader of the brand still. We don't, there is little, there's not a significant amount of oversight there from a micromanagement or anything like that. Our job is to guide and give them the support, move obstacles out of the way. So it's really important that the founder still has the energy, the passion, the juice of why they were doing this in the first place. And you can't force that out of them. That would be the worst thing we could do. So it's really important that we give them the latitude that they want and they need to go continue to drive this business. The roofing category, I don't know. Most of us don't. We are relying on David and his team to help us with that. So I think it's part investment in what they can do to become part of Empower. I think it's part of culturally and how do we set them up for success.
And other than EBITDA and unit level economics, what are some of the things you're looking for in the brands that you are acquiring in that 50 to 100 franchisee range, or maybe higher than that? Like and has that changed? Like, what are some of the things you're looking for in those businesses?
Yeah, I think it's changed maybe a little bit. We are looking for the B2B and B2C opportunities, and can the business model translate both ways? And it's not overly complex to do that. So that's one. I would say the franchisee base and the relationships they have with the franchisor is really important. And we do a lot of work there from a diligence standpoint to ensure that the relationships are strong. The franchisees feel good about the future of the business. They would do it again. Everybody asked that question. If you had the opportunity, would you do it again? You hope that all are not going to, but most say yes in that regard. So there's the franchise relations piece. And then I think besides the unit level economics, I would say, what's the real differentiation and value prop in the market? What are the franchisees doing, or what is the business or the brand doing that truly does differentiate them? And it might be product, it may be tech, it may be, whatever it might be. Is there something they have that is unique that allows them to win? So we do a lot of work of trying to figure that out, and how is that different, and then how can we build upon that over the next 5 to 10 years. So the runway has to be there for not just 5 years. It's really 10 plus.
In terms of franchise location.
Yeah, white space. And
white space.
Make sure and not just white space. If there's one, what's the ceiling on AUVs?
Right.
And you don't know that yet, because the franchisees have not been around as long. So what is that real ceiling? And is that 3 years out? Is it 10? Is it 10 years out? So there's probably, besides the financially, the EBITDA and unit level economics, there's 3, 4, 5 other things.
Like, what's the business case? What's the moat?
Yeah.
How big can this grow at the franchisee level? Yeah. We're finding, with residential, I don't know if you guys see this as well, but with residential, it's not easy, but you can say, all right, well, there's this many households, there's this average household income of these households. These are the, this is the buyer profile that will generally get residential power washing. If they, power wash their houses every 18 months or 12 months or 6 months, depending on where we're at in the country, and we capture X percentage of market share, it could reasonably be this many trucks in this territory, let's just say. Where we're finding that we can't do that because we're so early on is the commercial side. It's because and then even if we track business addresses, which we do obviously track when we award new units, it's like, well, you could have 4 business addresses in a shopping center, but the shopping center itself is a potential customer as well, in addition to those business addresses. And we do a lot of shopping centers at night and things like that, fast food restaurants. And so when you see a franchisee get a job that could keep one truck busy in one territory annually for 5 years, let's just say, it's like, whoa, what's the actual? And so we get that question all the time. Well, Aaron, or my sales team, how many trucks can we do per territory? And the answer we give is I wish we could tell you.
Right.
I literally wish I could give you a number, but I have no clue. And we're going to figure it out together. And if that scares you, I get it. It would scare me too, but I don't have an answer for you.
Right.
And so some people are excited by that. Some people are nervous, but that's this commercial side of the business. And so then people will say, well, let's look at the market cap. And I'm like, well, 93% of the power washing industry is focused entirely on residential. Right. So if we look at the market cap, it doesn't even give the answer either.
It's infinite. It's
infinite. It's largely up to you as the franchisee to go out and prove it out with us. Right. But I don't have an answer for you. So that's an interesting kind of piece of what we do. It's well, it could be, I think it's going to be larger than just residential, obviously, right. But how large can it be? It's hard to measure.
Yep. No, it's these early days, which is what you're still in. I think the great news is because you can play in both the residential and commercial, there is no ceiling on AUVs.
Right.
There's really not.
Yeah. It's how much are you going to penetrate that territory? Yeah. Right. So what do you spend most of your time doing these days in the business?
Yeah, I would say it's certainly on the investor private equity side and
managing your investors and
the
their
relationship and making sure that they are fully informed with what's going on in the business, working with them and with the board to ensure that if there are investments or initiatives, making sure that I'm the one who's leading that with them and communicating that with them. So there's a lot of work there. I spend a fair amount of my time on the M&A pipeline side, so meeting with founders or leadership teams or private equity firms where they're in an investment, they're going to sell that at some point in time, and beginning to build a relationship with them. But still, the vast majority of my time is working with the senior team here to advance the initiatives that we have to drive each brand. So I'm very much involved. I love the day-to-day side of this. I'm an operator at heart. So being involved day by day, I enjoy that. So it's still about putting our head down and driving these 10 brands and focusing on how can we scale the franchisee base. But, as you get to this size, there are bigger initiatives and investments and a private equity relationship that does take up a lot of your time.
And do you and the board have kind of a goal in terms of how many units or how many brands or how many acquisitions or how many brands you want to
Right.
incubate? Like, how do you kind of set? I know you do EOS, which we
Right.
do as
Yeah.
well. So how does M&A factor into your kind of
Yeah.
EOS 3-year, 1-year, 10-year plan?
Yeah. So if you look 10, 5, 3, 1, if you start working your way back, um, M&A on the 1-year plan has not been part of our plan. We've been
Okay.
focused on the 10 brands and driving growth and success through those. But if you look out at 3 years, it starts to come back into play. So, the board, we're mostly focused on the brands that we have. I think MidOcean, they're almost at their 5-year mark. So they're going to want a return on their investment here in the nearer term. So at some point, we'll have a new investor. Typically, the investor in those first few years, that's when you go and do all the M&A.
They want to buy a
Right.
ton of EBITDA.
So-
They want to make sure that they can get that EBITDA on the board.
Yeah. So I would say, the way we look at the next 3 years is that M&A will become a more significant part of our plan as we head into 26 and into 27, and going from 10 brands to 13, 14 plus brands is probably where that'll go in that time. But the brands have to fit. I mean, we will not compromise the brand being a fit with the criteria that we have. We aren't buying EBITDA. We're buying the brands that are a good
Sure.
fit for the platform that we
Right.
have for the next 10 plus years. EBITDA comes with that then.
Right. Sure. So is incubation then, would you say, a smaller part of your M&A strategy then, as you've grown to this size, than it was since in the past?
I would say probably a smaller part. I don't think it goes away. I think we will always have opportunistic ways to get into categories that we believe are ripe for a new brand, that we find a company-owned operation, we find a founder, and it's the right fit. I just think we've done it a lot in the past just because of who we are. I do think acquiring will probably become more of the preferred choice.
Sure. Scott, if someone wants to learn, this has been an awesome conversation. If someone wants to learn more about what you guys are doing at Empower, or anything, potentially want to become a franchisee or anything like that, where can they find you?
Yeah. So if you want to go to empowerfranchising.com, ING on the end, empowerfranchising.com, you can see our brands. You can contact us. It's an easy way to get to, I think, the best way to get to our brands.
Awesome. Well, Scott, this has been an awesome conversation. I know it'll be really valuable for the audience. Thanks so much for coming on, and we'll talk again soon.
Great to be here. Thanks, Aaron.